With less than a week remaining in President Trump's term, legal experts wonder whether he might try to pardon himself and also if he can. National political correspondent Dean Reynolds has that part of the story tonight.
Marnie, the Constitution gives a president, even one who's been impeached, almost unlimited power to pardon people. But whether that includes a pardon for himself is the subject of greater interest now in the waning days of the Trump administration. Speculation about a self-pardon by Donald Trump has increased in light of the legal jeopardy he may be in after he leaves office. He's reportedly discussed it, but can he do it?
The pardon power is very broad, and there are arguments on both sides of this. I personally agree with the side that says that he can't. There are reasonable arguments on the other side that say that he can. And there's never been a case.
A Watergate-era Justice Department memo argued no one may be a judge in his own case. The president cannot pardon himself. Keep in mind, a pardon would apply only to federal cases. Were he to pardon himself, the president could still be pursued for possible state crimes. Brian Kalt is a law professor at Michigan State University.
If this were to take place, would it wind up in the Supreme Court?
Absolutely, I think it would. And there are a couple of dangers that he faces by even trying to pardon himself. One is they could add that as another article of impeachment because it's a pretty outrageous abuse of the power to pardon yourself. The second is the prosecutors may or may not, federal prosecutors might have not wanted to go after him that aggressively, let the state prosecutors in New York do it. But if he pardons himself, they're not going to want to leave that hanging out there.
Another issue involves so-called preemptive pardons, like the one granted to Richard Nixon by his successor, Gerald Ford, back in 1974. Nixon was never charged or convicted, but accepted the pardon all the same.
As long as the pardon is for something the person has already done, it doesn't matter if they've been charged yet. It doesn't matter if they've been convicted yet.
The president could also try to blanket pardon associates like last week's rioters or members of his own family. But Kalt says the House could interpret such moves as an abuse of power, worthy of yet another article of impeachment. Now, of course, we don't know if the president is seriously contemplating a pardon for himself. No president has ever done it. But one thing we do know is that he will lose the pardon power when he leaves office in 7 days. Rob?